Well, if you've ever had food poisoning, you can make it,
it's the
can
worst.
make you horribly sick, vomiting, diarrhea, headache, you name it. It's not fun, and the list goes on and on.
Yes, and if you've never had it, statistics show that 48 million people get it every year, so let's make sure you don't get it. That means 1 out of every 6 people are sickened by contaminated food. It's usually caused by a variety of bacteria, viruses, and parasites. What's really nauseating, most foodborne diseases, you ready, are caused by feces getting into your food, and it can come from either animals or humans. So let's bring in Dr. Jen Caudle to give us some tips for, keeping our families safe. We want to be fed, but safe at the same time. Good morning to you.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Can't complain. I think we've all been through it at one point or another. And then once you start feeling sick, you have to trace, okay, what did I eat? What did I do? For me, it was a hot dog at a vending truck in Chicago. I'll never forget it, and I knew exactly what it was, and obviously it has to run its course. But what are the foods that are most likely to be contaminated that you found?
Well, Chanel, you mentioned something really important. A lot of my patients say the same thing. They say when they got food poisoning, it was one of the worst things they've ever experienced.
Yeah, you know it.
Absolutely. Some of the foods that are most likely to be contaminated with bacteria or viruses or parasites, this includes a lot of raw foods. So things like raw shellfish, you could even have raw meats or raw chicken, unpasteurized milk, even eggs that aren't cooked properly. And don't forget fruits and vegetables, because these can be contaminated as well.
What exactly should we do to try to prevent food poisoning? Are there
I feel like everybody knows to cook the chicken thoroughly.
Right.
Everybody knows to clean the counters, although people don't maybe always do it. Or is it the little things that we do anyway and we're just not doing them, or we're supposed to be doing?
Well, it's a combination of a couple of things. There's a few things that people can really do to make sure that they avoid food poisoning. The first thing is washing. You did mention this. Not only washing your hands, by the way, you should wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds at least. Making sure, if you don't know how long 20 seconds is, sing the song Happy Birthday once to twice, and that will get you 20 seconds.
In the restroom.
But you also need to make sure that you're washing utensils and platters and things like that any raw foods come into contact with. This is so important. So washing utensils, washing platters, and washing your hands, that's one thing that you can certainly do. And another thing to keep in mind is making sure that you keep hot foods hot and cool foods cool. Have you guys had any barbecues this summer? Have you,
of course. And they say it every year, but people, if you're outside, there's potato salad that sits on the table all day long. I feel like it's things that we know, we just don't do.
Well, it's so true. Remember that foods that have been sitting out, whether they're supposed to be hot or cold, they shouldn't sit out in room temperature for any longer than 2 hours.
2 hours?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And
that's a problem for a lot of barbecues, I think.
Well, it is, and that's when the risk of food poisoning definitely increases. Keep in mind as well that in temperatures that are really, really hot, like we had last week, we had 90-degree temperatures and above, that's the time when foods really shouldn't sit out longer than 1 hour. So a lot of this has to do with making sure that we keep hot foods hot, we keep cool foods cool, and we make sure that we're not keeping them out too long. That's super important.
Well, if you're hosting a party, I think it's even more important, because the last thing you want is for someone to remember that they got sick
at your house.
At your house.
Absolutely. And making sure that we don't share utensils. If you put raw things on a platter or something, please don't put cooked foods on that same platter or use the same utensils. And so those are some things that can really help keep you safe this summer.
Fair enough. Happy summer. Thank you, Dr. Jen.
Great. Thank you.
Well,